Hello, my fellow readers. This is I, Dark Symphony 777 with another fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I am doing a review of is The Shrine of Gensokyo no Jinja by... I'm not even going to bother pronouncing that. It is a Touhou fanfiction, and okay. So before I get into this story, I need to address something really weird about this story. Specifically, the formatting. It is so bad. Like, this is the first time I have to actually break, like, in a long time that I have to actually break and do things in a different order. The grammar is fine, but this writing style is so atrocious that I have to at least bring this up. It's just monumentally horrible from a pure writing standpoint. Okay, I got that out of my system. Let us actually get into the plot. So, for context, this story assumes the following games have happened: Embodiment of Scarlet Devil, Perfect Cherry Blossoms, Imperishable Night, Phasmagoria, A Flower Viewing, Mountain of Fate, Subterranean Animism, and Undefined Fantastic Object. Keep that one in mind. So, in this plot, this takes place 14 years, I'm guessing, after the events of some unknown adventure. Rimu, for whatever reason, decides to leave Gensokyo and take up duties as a traditional Shinto maid. I mean, I'm going to assume that is Shinto, because the story is apparently a spiritual story. So I'm just gonna err on the side of caution and assume this is going to be very Shinto-esque. Rimu spends 14 years developing and growing. She takes a drink that allows her to leave Gensokyo, but she loses her memory of her entire life in there, and so she's basically she basically is raised and adopted into her own shrine maiden, and now she is 30. And one day, she gets a reunion with Suika Ibuki, the Oni, who was actually occupying and running the shrine in the Takare Shrine in Gensokyo, while Rimu was in Japan. I'm gonna guess like Tokyo or something like that. So, Suika actually tells Rimu that there is a big thing happening. Basically, a lot of plant stuff is actually dying across the land. Yokai are actually randomly attacking people again. There's a lot of paranoia, and Suika came to bring Rimu back. Is a last grasp effort to try and restore normalcy to Gensokyo. Rimu is very hesitant at first, mainly because she has like actual amnesia from drinking something. And she ultimately gets persuaded by Suika to willingly go back to Gensokyo. There, we get several arcs full of finding out that Marissa is missing, Marissa Kirisame, and Rimu deciding to follow her footsteps to find out what happened to Marissa, in the hopes of not only finding out what happened to her memory, like why she left Gensokyo in the first place, but also in the hopes that if she finds Marissa, she can easily find a path to fix everything that's going on with Gensokyo, like plans to Kane, plans, to Yokai and all that. It's a very well done story from a plot standpoint. The only issue I have in the first half is the formatting itself. The formatting is just completely atrocious. Where you have Rimu going to like the Scarlet Devil Mansion. She goes to the human village to meet with Kain and Fujiwara no Moku. Then she eventually goes to the Moria Shrine to meet Sane, Kanako, and Sawako. And then she gets end up in Yukari's house, and turns out Yukari is like completely off a rocker, and basically is trying to kill her, become genocidal. Everything up to the whole war campaign in chapter 28, I think from a plot and from a character standpoint, specifically from Rimu's standpoint, is phenomenal. I have absolutely no complaints about that. With Rimu going around using her faith, and the whole idea of Rimu re-seeing everything in Gensokyo through a new perspective, while on the flip side, everyone that's Rimu has known is looking at this now adult, changed Rimu, who doesn't remember who she used to be, and constantly comparing it to the Rimu that they're known for. So, for instance, in the Canigans, Rimu is very apathetic. She really doesn't give a fuck. If she wants to, she will calmly take her goe, wander around, figure out who's going, say stop it, and then just immediately just start whacking it. Even if they do stop, it's like, no, I'm stopping you, but you're hitting me. This is how I do things. And then just basically feeding them senses like, all right, now tea time and stuff like that. Now they see this more adult Rimu who's very responsible and very conservative in her thinking of realizing now that, yokai and humans are more or less the same. I think it's a very well done and executed plot, and even Rimu's character of I have to do things differently because it's just because I have to do this differently because of how the story goes. Rimu's character is immaculate. With on one hand, you can make the argument that she doesn't really develop as a character, which is true. She doesn't really develop as a character in the story. But it seems to be that's done on purpose because of how the plot plays out. The whole story, the entire, pretty much everything is banking on the fact that Rimu went through character development before the events of the story. Because everyone is so used to that brash, apathetic, ultra, take no prisoners Rimu that they're used to. And now not only is everyone seeing Rimu in a new light and trying to cope and understand what happened, Rimu herself is facing repercussions of what she used to be, and seeing how everyone is reacting towards her over what she used to look like. I think that is fine. I think that is a great angle to approach a spiritual story, like the whole idea of redemption and find and understanding that what's the word understanding the consequences of one answers, even if Rimu doesn't really know what she did or why she did it. She realizes that she still screwed up. She still murdered a bunch of people, well, namely yokais, namely fairies, because fairies die all the time, so it don't matter. And then chapter 28 to 44 happen. And I really don't know how to say this. How do I say this? It's really bad. I'm immediately thought of. Let me get the story first because I need to show the comparison. This fic This is one of the most insulting fan fictions I've ever read, because this and this are in the same boat. Trying to get of Gensokyo is not as bad in the second half as this one. This was insulting. This was downright disrespectful. So why am I bringing up a completely unrelated fan fiction? I will tell you why. Because they fall under the same prop. You have a perfectly great first half, and then you randomly switch tacks unnecessarily in such a jarring and badly done way that you're wondering what the actual fuck happened. Because this story, it starts with like the whole like robot masters getting sentience and all that, and then halfway through it just turns into the Wily show where he just kills everyone, and then just to act as a prelude to the Mega Man Zero franchise. That's so fucking stupid. And I'll have to mention, it's honestly disrespectful because of how this. Go watch a review of Ghost in the Machine. I don't talk about this story anymore. This story is not as disrespectful. It's not really that disrespectful. It's really dumb, like at how it was handled. But I wouldn't say this was insulting. So what happened? Well, we get to the point where Rimu gets launched to Yukari's place by Kanako via Onabashira. Rimu finds out this is the last supposed place Marissa is. Alright, so probably either Marissa somewhere with Yukari, or, Yukari probably killed her. Rimu goes in, finds Yukari, finds that Yukari has gone legitimately off her rocker, and then says, "Oh, I'm literally going to destroy Gensokyo." Just out of the blue. I'm gonna kill everyone. Then we get how many chapters? I need to count how many chapters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 chapter battle. What? Huh? Excuse me while I extrapolate this. Where did this battle come from? Like, you had a good thing going with like Rimu going around trying to grasp the consequences of her past self actions, and how everyone's reacting to the change in behavior. And then you just get a massive battle? Don't get me wrong. I think the battle itself is fine. I don't think it's badly written. It's just so off-putting that this just came up unnecessarily. And before you say anything, yes, there were foreshadows that something big was going to happen. When Suika actually brings Rimu to Gensokyo, she notices around the shrine that the plants were dying. Okay, so something's happening. And then she gets a nightmare where she sees like countless blood, and like all the fairies, like the author even points out Cerno, dying from like a massive skull that is like leaking blood from it, which is actually a pretty cool image. So it's like, okay, so it's something. But that's at the beginning of the story. And then after that nightmare, it's never brought up again. It's just completely forgotten about until like chapter 25, where you're just all of a sudden Remelia and all the people of Scarlet Devil Mansion and the members of INT, they just randomly meet up. It's like, oh, we gotta prepare for something. It's like, what? And I'm just confused because it kind of feels like it was going in a different direction. Like, okay, like they're all getting ready to kind of discuss what's going on with Rimu. It's like, and see if they can like see what's going. At least they can help Rimu find Marissa or something like that. Not a massive 14 chapter battle. It feels like a massive disconnect in this way. And a big reason of that is the fact that nothing in the second half feels earned. So we have the battle, we have actual tons of character development from other characters besides Rimu. The problem is the story never focuses on them. Like we have a whole instance of Ryzen like mentally breaking down over Coward. It's not really earned because the story doesn't has not even focused on her until that moment, so it doesn't feel earned. All the parts with Rumia doesn't feel earned. The part where Rumia EX just randomly shows doesn't feel earned. The part where Mei Ling just randomly says I'm a dragon doesn't feel earned because one, she spent like most of the story being a butt monkey, and two, it just comes blown fuck out of nowhere. Even the part where one, Marissa shows up at the end to save Rimu doesn't feel earned. Rimu dies at the end, doesn't feel earned because with that, it completely robs the whole scene of its tension that at least building up with like, oh, possibly like a final confrontation because now Rimu and Yukari are like on their legs and then Rimu just dies after Yukari gets some like a couple kicks in and then Marissa saves her. Yukari doesn't die. She just witnesses Marissa saving Rimu and then Rimu dies like, oh, and then she just disappears. Like it's even mentioned in story. Oh, Yukari just disappeared. Huh? Just it's just a bafflement. And then even after that, you have Rimu go meeting Shikieki the Ama, and we get this whole trial thing. And then Shiki gives her like these two doors. Like one will lead you to an eternal damnation, while the other will lead you to peace because of how the sins and the consequence of your actions. Rimu goes to the middle because she sees a third door. She opens it. The Shiki says, "Congratulations on finding the door. This will be the only time you'll be getting that." And then Shiki lets her soul go back into her body, and Rimu wakes up, and everyone cheering. Doesn't feel earned because so much stuff unnecessarily happens in a way that never had time to let you breathe. Granted, the whole Rimu coming back to life. Okay, that one at least a little breathed a little bit, but it still didn't feel earned because it was so unnecessary. Now, I will say all these ideas they actually do kind of fit. It's just there's no build up to this. It just goes from a very calm and relaxed story to this 100% out of fuck alls nowhere that just comes off as very random and off-putting that offers no explanation. Even Yukari's villainous plan for doing what she did is like vague ass shit. It's implied in the last chapter that Yukari, after Rimu left, she had a burden. She had to burden all the weight of running Gensokyo without Rimu to kind of balance that, and she kind of mentally broke at that point. And so she kind of concocted everything to specifically get Rimu to come in and kill her, which is negated by the fact that Yukari doesn't die. She just doesn't. What is some of these decisions, man? Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. There's some stories are just completely out there. Isn't one of them? Oh, characters. But besides Rimu, I do think every single character besides Rimu are really underdeveloped, except for Moku and Kaguya. I wonder why. No, not Kaguya. Moku and Kain. I wonder. I wonder why that is. It's not like there is Uh, there is a story that is specifically focused on them that the author specifically tells you to read to understand what the fuck is going on with them. Don't do this! It's bad. I can at least forgive the author for saying, okay, it's crossing over with my own other story. But don't do something like this. This is just, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the context is. Unless it's a direct sequel to the story, don't do it. This is just a random side story that the author just automatically expects you to read this story to understand a big chunk of the side plot that's leading up to the big battle. Like this is not even connected. It's like, oh, you want to understand what's going on with like Kai and Moku and Aientai and Iron kind of getting screwed up in the head. Oh yeah, you got to read this completely unrelated story that only answers that plot point. No, just you just know, it's bad. It's just bad. That's just a bad decision. Grammar. I don't think I need to say without saying that having a story where all the dialogue is in brackets is a bad thing. I have to touch on all of the other grammar errors because you can probably see all the writing stuff is it's not exactly well written. What is with everything in brackets? Why is literally everything have 3 periods? Like nothing, barely anything is written with 1 period. This is sad. This is not. This is not. I'm not even mad. I'm sad at this story. I'm disappointed because the story had the first half was so good, even with the bad writing, even with the bad formatting. It was so good. And I can't even say anything about the pacing and the sentence structure because just look at it. Just look how bad the sentence structure and everything is. Pace wise, it's fine. I don't have anything bad to say about it. Oh, and I haven't even discussed the final bit, and that is the massive plot hole in this story. Yes, this story has a colossal plot hole. Do you want to know who it is? This chick. Do you want to know who she is? This is Byakuren Hijiri. She is the penultimate boss, well, technically the final boss, of Undefined Fantastic Object. Now you're wondering, why do I bring her up? Well, Byakuren's character is a very religious woman who wants to bridge the gap between yokai and human peacefully. Now you're just wondering, wait, didn't you mention kind of something like that when talking about Rimu's character? Yes, yes you did. This is this is exactly Rimu's character in the story. Just slightly different. Where's Byakuren? And you can't even. I honestly, when I read this story the first time, or the couple like last week, it started. It mentioned the whole UFO incident. Okay, so so we're probably gonna get acquainted with like most, if not all, of these locations. UFO, no mention from them. No, past that, they like Byakuren doesn't show up even in the climax. You figured, I don't know, Byakuren or Kogasa, probably not Kogasa, or any of them would just randomly show up. Subterranean animism not showing up. I gotta get that. They're underground. You probably have to do a fucking metric ton of like unrelated shit just to get her under there. Not to mention Yukari, like they're completely different from Form of Hell is completely different from Gensokyo as a whole. So Yukari probably just didn't give a fuck. But UFO has them land their ship at like randomly on the ground and just they start a religion. That's actually what happens in the end of Sanae's story in that game, where she's just like, "Why don't you just land your ship and start doing religious stuff?" And they're like, "That's actually not a bad idea," which is what happens. And I thought, okay, maybe it's like a grammar error. And then at the end, where I think it's this one. Uh, where is it? No, that's this one. That's this chapter. It's chapter previous chapter. Let's see. Where am I? Let's see. Yes, I should be somewhere around here. I can't remember what. It's specifically somewhere in this chapter. Uh, but specifically, one of the sins that Shikieki mentions to get to Rimu is like, okay, one of your crimes is you beat up a mouse yokai, which is Nazarene. It's literally Nazarene of the Miorin crew. So that brings up, where is Byakuren? My guess is the author completely forgot to include this group, despite the fact, one, it would make too much sense to actually include a group of characters whose entire shtick is Rimu's character right now, with Rimu wanting the boundaries between yokai and humans to break, and so that way they can be friends and worship. Where is Murin? Where is her? She appears nowhere. The character whose whole thing is that. Or any of the characters, Ichirin, Cho, Nazarene, fuck, even Nue even has like a cameo. It's such a confusing decision that you would mention UFO, but you went out of your way to not have them appear in any capacity, despite characters from every single game, including technically PC-98, because Yuka shows up, but she's the PC-98 version as a kid. But no, and even no, Perfect Cherry Blossoms was show up either. But I can at least understand Perfect Cherry Blossoms not showing up, mainly because Yukari is probably keeping Yuyuko from getting evolved. Honestly, seems like a realistic thing. Uh, but there's also the fact that Yuyuko's kind of separate, just like under the underground. Yuyuko's kind of like Hyakurokuro is like completely separate from Gensokyo, so you can at least kind of make some, but you can finagle some leeway on that. But the Panalakun shit literally just lands near the hill, like several miles away from the human village. It's a plot hole, plain and simple. Poor Byakuren, look at her. She's dead. She's dead inside, wondering why this author didn't mention her at any point, so she can. Now she's gonna come to that person's house and give them the sutras. Oh hell, the Buddhists. Point is, this story did a lot of good, and the front half, but it's so mangled everything from the second half. I don't know whether or not I want to recommend it. If we're talking just the first half would legitimately, the first half is borderline better off alone tier, because of just how well done the characters and the whole, all the image, like not imagery, the wordplay, even like as bungled as it was, you can, once you figured out what was going on, it was like, it was really immaculate with the with the wordplay, with Rimu's character. with like especially Moku and Kain and the village and everyone kind of treating Moku and Kain like Moku like it's like a monster because she's immortal. It's all really well done and sells the theme of of the consequences of actions. It really tells a legitimately great story, and then it's just completely bungled because the author instead of properly building up to that big battle, it's just like, no, we're just gonna do the battle now and just cut everything proper build up to it. I want to recommend this story. I really, really do, but I can't, and that's really sad because I really I really wanted to recommend the story, but I just that second half, no, it's so bad how it was handled. And it's even worse is the whole the ideas in there would have been better if they were just paced out. If everything was just paced better. Favorite part? I would actually. I don't really have a favorite part. No, no, no. The whole thing with Moku and Kain and Moku and Kain. Actually, I actually like their relationship. I think Moku and Kain was really well handled. The fact that Moku and Kain basically stuck up to each other, and the whole idea of Kain refusing the elixir because she's like, I want a proper legacy to leave behind. If I take this elixir and I live forever, it would it would come off as selfish, and I don't want, and that would burden Moku even more, and I don't want that to happen. And so Kain basically wants to leave behind a legacy because she thought that's the best way to celebrate to honor history is to leave a legacy behind so people can remember you fondly. I think that's honestly well done, and even Moku's character in the story was, but next to Rimu, the best written character, I loved Moku's believable, jerk, like very like tomboyish jerk that also has who's very shielded from everyone because of how she was treated. Because Moku's backstory is very depressing. Like you have a girl who saw her father went through like a rigged game by Kaguya because Kaguya and Moku are based off characters. Well, not so much Moku, but more her father. They're based off characters from the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, and do this impossible task that the father couldn't solve, and then that leads Moku to basically steal the elixir from apparently a group of people that were trying to destroy it, just to try and spite her. And then she finds out she can't die anymore, and so she literally spends like years upon years killing herself, and then just losing control of her anger, and then she goes literally comatose for like hundreds of years because she can't cope with the fact that she's now like no matter what she does she'll just withstand everything to the point where she absolutely the only thing still keeping her like relatively sane is her love for Kain and also her absolute hatred for Kaguya for what she saw as something is her fault, which in a weird sort of way, if you ever read the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, yeah, it kind of is Kaguya's fault because I think she's kind of a bitch in that story. It comes off as massively believable, and you really want to root for Moku in the big war climax because she gets all the best themes of like her like Kaguya realizing that Moku what realizing the instant of what Moku had to go through because she found out that Iron was like hiding everything from her and wanting to basically earn Moku's forgiveness. So she's like pushing herself to like passing out and waking up specifically to keep going, just to try and get Moku to not hate her anymore. To just even so much as like at least say my name, please. Just come on. Like and that moment where like Moku reluctantly says bye, Kaguya. And she's like, and Kaguya's like coming coming to terms that she doesn't care how long it's gonna take. She's going to earn Moku's forgiveness. She will earn it as much as she could, and it brings the whole core theme of repentance and forgiveness into the forefront in a very well done way. I think it's just a really I think it's just oh also I also like the whole scene where Rimu meets Mei Ling and like everyone and she's like constantly like, you're not calling me China? It's like, no, you said your name was Mei Ling. And then Mei Ling goes, someone called me by my name. She has like tears of joy. I think that's kind of funny because it honestly fits. It's around what 2000. This was made in 2009. Yeah, 2009. This is when like the whole mainly is China thing was big in the Touhou community. What would I do to change this story? Honestly, two things. One, clean up the writing. Just fix the formatting. I don't care how it does. This needs to go. Two, add the Mioran Temple between the events of the Moria Shrine and going to Yukari's place. I think putting the Mioran Shrine like instead of Kanako sending Rimu to Yukari's place, she sends her to the Palanquin. And so now she meets like-minded people to believe the same things, and you can do the whole spiritual deliverance through the acts of someone who is much more well knowledged in Byakuran and seen how struggling with the vices and forgiveness. It will continue on with that. You can even have Sine join her and continue Sine's little story about having being depressed and living in the shadow of Rimu. And maybe you can even have like Rimu and Sine kind of start dating or I don't know, kiss. I don't know. While in the background, and between all that, you have everything going on in the background. Like you can have a scene with Yukari, kind of touching upon her backstory, or even talking to Marissa to kind of foreshadow the fact that Marissa's going to get out eventually. You can have all the Ientai groups and the Scarlet Devil groups kind of meet together and kind of discuss what's going on and kind of give more depth and insight into what's going on behind the scenes with like everything dying. Maybe even reference Yuko, like because of course I mean that's kind of a big thing because if anyone could at least talk to Yukari, it'd probably be Yuko. Maybe even like have a little. Maybe Yuko shows up like she can't really get involved. Just use the Penaliquin ship and the Mioran crew as a breather to kind of properly fit and stretch between Moria and the big battles. So that way, everything breathes more, and you can connect all the various scenes and all the various moments that are going to happen in the war and make them actually carry weight. Because, like I said, the individual moments that kind of prop up on paper do seem actually fit the story as a whole. It's just there was no weight given behind them. I think honestly, if you give the time and property, the ability and the story to let everything breathe and forward it and start slowly getting everything ready to give the story in proper weight, this story would actually be straight up better off alone tier. Like, that's all this story needs. It just needs a few touches, and you're good. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say about this story. I do think I do think this story was good in certain aspects, but it had so many problems in that second half. I can't really say anything more. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.